Welcome, everyone, to the second Poets Corner reading event here at Fairleigh Dickinson University. It is wonderful to have people online and wonderful to have everyone here face to face. Without too much ado, I'll say we're going to begin with, I think, a short open mic segment. We may have a little bit more for open mic in the middle of the reading. Otherwise, we'll just take a moment between our readers. Thank you very much, Grant. Now to proceed to our scheduled speakers. To begin, first of all, I'm grateful that all of you are here, and I would like to recognize that FDU's Vancouver campus is on the unceded territory of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam peoples. I should also point out that our server space is all on the land of the Lenni Lenape people as well. Our first speaker will be Jennifer Zilm. She is a librarian and a poet. Her books include First Time Listener and The Missing Field, both from Guernica Editions, and Waiting Room from Book Hug. I'm also told that she has a particularly strong interest in the corner of King George Boulevard and 108th Avenue, an area I happen to know pretty well as well. The floor is yours, Jennifer, and thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm really excited because I work in a library. And I knew I was coming here tonight. And one of the privileges of being in a library, especially now in this beautiful age that we are living, is that you get really good access to dumpsters. So, and if you're from Surrey, you love dumpster diving. So I found all these poetry books in the dumpster and we can all just have them. So that's feature one. Now I'm going to read from my book, which has many things about libraries and getting rid of stuff and the Alexandrian library and how it burns. I also want to juxtapose those poems with some poems that are little sonnet type poems that were my spiritual response to the series CNN Crimes of the Century. So to begin with these questions. Query: how do I know when my ebook is ended? Answer: thank you for your query. We are deep in the midst of making live a website on how to keep paper sacred with marginalia, tracking how sleep science and bibliomancy are beginning to map the common reader's kisses with densometers and infrared light. Please note that when your sticky fingers tap the screen to flip the page, an approbation will appear. Congratulations, you've just finished a book. This is to assure you of your accomplishment because our designers suspect users might get lost without the weight on either side of paragraphs. Rest assured, a series of atoms waits in stasis to bubble up to greet you. Anyways, back to the antique reader's kisses. The secret to ancient books is to imagine a road without street lamps before that lunatic flew his key kite in the rain. Pre-electricity, readers slept from dusk to midnight, then opened their eyes for a day rehearsal. A Coptic monk with his gray string beard, a girl with stringy hair falling in bits from some somnambulant bonnet would hit the book with candles and frankincense. Our data set consists of wax pattern and fingernail grit mapped to follow his preferred 2 a.m. prayer to unearth her favorite passage. Further, stray hairs swished into vellum suggest the moment our best hypothesis is 2 a.m. when both return to sleep. I suppose you might say we cartographers of the Codex tried to give new meaning to the term dirty books. How satisfying did you find this reply? Okay, sonnet 1, drowning. Here is a live stream, illegal, surreal. Here is a flood, a submerge, a 911 call. Do you need fire, ambulance, police? I need you to send someone. 1 daughter, 4 sons in the master, another in the tub, face up. Quiverful, the cop says. It made me shake. All water, and I thought that it was a doll, the daughter. Jury foreman says, godly women know better than to trust what Satan says. Her husband, worshiped God, worked for NASA, becomes lawyer, remarried. Defense says, I have long since crossed the boundary. She is daughter to me now. She is daughter. 2, exchange student. Young, beautiful, trouble, ugly American on steroids. Something in her eyes suggests she was high and hooking in amongst the limestone buildings brimming with art and altars. Once you read Italian, headlines are all gangland, drug crime in epic cycle. The accused was good with languages, living with an offbeat Etruscan and alas, British and thus more elegant. How many people fall in love at 23 and think forever? It was All Saints Day, and I hate to say, but this was just garden variety. One guy kills one girl. Nevertheless, the papers went crazy. Now back to a reference question. How do I resume? Can I use an emoji in business emails? Answer. Thank you for your query. There is a moment we all ask ourselves, when will I be able to go into the organic grocer and purchase all I can eat quinoa with a flash of pink nipple? Business etiquette is indeed in flux. Sometimes a handwritten note makes a difference with the employer. Those loops and whirls, what with curriculum reform, have become almost cuneiform and a way to distinguish yourself from younger aspirants. Epigraphy really is a growth industry. Here are the metrics of the situation. Metrics means digits, right? For, not FOUR. Here's a situational question. When your subordinate enters the office with her head in her hands like a 4th century saint, how do you tactfully tell her she really needs to modernize and mobilize productivity? Can you play productively by yourself? Do you have the leadership skills to take your place at third base and still convey to the outfielder that she is a valued member of the team? Positive reinforcement is so important. When she forestalls a home run, one-handed, make sure she throws the softball and not her skull. Seriously, weren't you tasked with resolving this situation 2 stanzas ago? Be sure to let her know you are very concerned with her deliverables. Oh, my headless one. How satisfactory. Now, this is the next sonnet test, is what I like to call them. And it's really nice because it's about Ronald Reagan. And I always like to mention, if you ever want to spend a really good time, just go and watch old Reagan campaign commercials on YouTube, because there's this really nice one, and it's just a bear walking around, and it's like, there's a bear in the woods. Maybe it's gentle, and maybe it's violent, but do we want someone who's as strong as the bear? If there is a bear, and it blows your mind. It's like right up there with the Daisy ad by the Lyndon Johnson Daisy ad. I digress. Okay, so assassination attempt. Rawhide really is the best code name. I thought it was fireworks, the president recalls. A handful of bright frothing. Did I just bite my tongue? So we went to the trauma center, though it had nothing by way of security. Today, we are all Republicans, the doctor said, as he shifted the heart to one side, held its beating in his latex hand. Dutch was in character the entire time. He said the assassin attempted, I wish him no harm. The crawl at the bottom in white. He says he had no direction in life. Note, all caps. Note, condensed Helvetica. Okay, query. How big is the data? Can I compress losslessly? Answer. Thank you for your query. Not sorry. Big data is essentially an accounting of nouns in a 21st century poem. Think of nouns as nouns as nerves of the sonnet. At this point, we are focusing on outwitting decay, preserving our syntactic heritage. Once in primary school, we toured Dairy Queen and they allowed us into a locked freezer, a whole room of ice. Unfortunately, cold storage only forestalls archival erosion. Ice cream or emails, the artifact won't last forever. We risk getting sticky to chart the metrics of our collection. Now, more than ever, the mindful mining of values is crucial. Our accountants of light are soft penciling through the wrecks of text to present an account to the disinterested public. Our deliverable will be a frilled list of people, places, things. Please pay attention before rust erodes the pronouns and the abode seems equivocal. Of the degradation of warning, we are certain. Are you satisfied? Now, this is number 4 of the sonnets. It's called Oklahoma. The impact, the shockwave, like an iceberg, hit downtown at the destination point of the Trail of Tears. Was it a whack job, a professional, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to build a bomb. The smoke cleared like T-zone trouble with a bit of astringent. Here, a survivor of the Journal Record Bureau. Here, a survivor of the Social Security Office. The bomber slept in a motel called Dreamland. Turns out he was one of ours, therefore we needed to know who he was. Voted most talkative, his childhood marked by one hateful novel, then 9 stories. Okay, now this is my final reference question. See if I can find it. Oh, it's over here. Query. Is it true I can get any book online? Answer. Thank you for your query. Apologies. It turns out the Alexandrian Library was mostly magical thinking on our parts, all our parts. The process of culling books from a library is called weeding. We believed that our colleagues in Alexandria started innocently in the Dewey Decimal. In the 800s, they noticed low surf numbers and the incoming rush of papyrus, of the making of many books, panicking, looking at shelf space. Like all good gardeners, they pulled and yanked and composted. They recycled. Have you ever experienced the easy, satisfying drag and click of an icon from your desktop? The simulated crackling of emptying? Imagine Egypt and those non-unionized book workers lugging the unread tomes to the corner. Feel the tightening and lengthening of their shoulder muscles. Visualize spring and remember your own cleaning. Forgive their zeal. They trusted, as I know you do, that the materials would be repurposed, that out of sight does not mean out of mind. Those books are somewhere, seriously. If it's hard to locate stuff in the wisps and binary pollution of the cloud, imagine pawing through the back alleys and steel bins of an Alexandrian summer. In the end, we must learn to trust the good folks in waste management. Leave it to the experts. In the end, nothing is really discarded. Satisfied? Now, this is the final sonnet test. And like me, I know you guys think about Waco every single day. The branch. The aged story is backed by the chair of the Center for the Study of Hate. There are only 2 research questions. I had a guy on the line who thought he was God, and it was a situation of biblical proportions. Think cubits, think shekels. Somehow the church became cult, the rated debacle. The Dallas affiliate has God live via satellite. Sir, may I ask how you're doing? Ah, God answers. Fair to Midland, but I am weakening. The power is intermittent, but sometimes they bombard us with noise and light. So calm, you can't help but begin to wonder. Okay, so those are those poems. And I think in the same spirit of that poem, I have another poem, which is about emergencies that I wanted to read. And it's called Devotional Hastings and Princess. My icon bearing wall, the paint light fast, refusing the sun's sleazy degradation. Egg tempura is preferable to watercolor because the leftover whites can be used to tighten widening pores or as a scramble for brunch after matinal devotions. We who eat our God prefer our worship objects with an edible sheen. Out of the church, away from my altar, I find myself praying to electric lights, to nostalgia, to steam, to the gentle railway tracks, feast of freighter color, power of placement, oh, my our sweet lady of basic bitch variations. I drink coffee only at cafes where beans are locally roasted, like Joan of Arc. On a bus shelter, I saw a sign. Somebody took my bicycle. I must learn how to identify an emergency. So I think that's been like 25 minutes, or has it been 5 minutes? I don't know. I am pretty sure that that time ended in 1994, so you'll have to just tell me. It's 25 minutes up? No, I'm not just gonna have to. Well, they're all Surrey poems, right? They are all Surrey poems. I do know some jokes though. I have jokes, I have all the jokes in here. What is the difference between yogurt and Surrey? Yogurt has culture. That's what they say. But anyways, the best jokes, Surrey jokes, are about girls because they're the Punch Girls. So, is it 25 minutes or is it like how close? Another 10 minutes. Oh, I do? Okay. Okay, this is a poem, and I was trying to write like a New York school style poem, and they're really, they're really anecdotal, and like they're all friends with each other, and so Frank O'Hara is talking about, I don't know, Kenneth Koch or something like that, and so I was trying to write a New York poem, but I didn't live in New York. I lived in Toronto, so this is Toronto, and it's for Ori. Geez, I said to you on Google Chat, you sound like some Ellis Island refugee with a name like Skszwx in a dream of colonizing Greenpoint with your homemade laptop, 4 windows open, simultaneously emailing Noam Chomsky, remotely debugging my software, and IMing me about how Ashbery is the only poet who gets it. I was trying to convince you to stay in Forest Hills in that 2-bedroom apartment with your ABBA and his endless J dates, and Simona, your Bulgarian girlfriend who grew up spoiled behind the Iron Curtain before it fell in 1989. She moved to Bavaria, where everyone looked at her crossly because she was a Slav who clearly had some Turkish blood in her somewhere. You said Toronto was a big blank nothing, but New York was possibility, joy, and a joyfully obese ticket agent dancing in her metro ticketing booth. How many Torontonians does it take to swap a light bulb? 1 to change the light bulb, and 4 million to declare it a world-class event. Still, I tried for months to convince you to apply to the Ontario Institute for the Study of Education, but it was a lost cause because, quote, New York City is the new Jerusalem for 21st century Jews, end quote, you said, booking dinner dates and offering pro bono Hebrew translation to Norman Finkelstein. To prove you wrong, I went to NYC for Xmas using my BF dad's Marriott points to stay in a hotel in Sḳwx, riding the commuter bus through the Holland Tunnel to make a pilgrimage to the building where John Lennon was shot, the Dakota, the same color as a Badland Canyon. At the Strawberry Field Memorial, someone had left a white teddy bear holding an American flag and wearing a t-shirt that read, "Just do it." My footwear impractical, I searched at Kmart in the East Village for a pair of tennis shoes before heading back through the tunnel to stand at my hotel window and watch the Walmart parking lot. Hordes of well-meaning people with oversized shopping carts filled with 2 to 3 new TVs on Christmas Eve, 2007. I hated New York and told you so, but you left anyways. My only friend in Toronto who'd known me when I was in Vancouver. Also, Columbia Teachers College was a joke, and you knew I was going to Jerusalem to study modern Hebrew with nothing to prepare me but a bunch of evangelical Bible scholars. You told me to look up your brother in Tel Aviv, but I was too shy, and instead drank perfect vodka in my air-conditioned room in the gated student village, watching pirated episodes of 16 Under and going nuts. The last time I saw you was that fall in Toronto when we practiced conversational Hebrew in the Indian restaurant you loved on Bloor Street, across from the Indian restaurant I loved on Bloor Street because the Vindaloo made me weep, and 4 blocks east of the Indian restaurant on Bloor Street, my ginger poet friend loved because they knew all her allergies. You asked me in Hebrew, why do you keep using the present tense? Then you told me you saw Ashberries near the Seinfeld diner by a mailbox, withered, ancient, and who knows what he was posting. I was barely listening because my brain was broken and, embarrassed to admit it, I was a failed Torontonian planning my escape back to the post-Olympic granola avenues of Vancouver. After dinner, we TTC'd east to the dance floor. You always knew where to get the best pastries, and at a table among friends sat a blonde, face-lifted woman about the age of your mother, speaking as much English as she could muster before slipping back into Hebrew, saying, I love, hasiparim ha'ela. And I knew from my 6 weeks in the Holy City, the last part meant these stories. Also, that your name means my light, that Yiddish is a hybrid of German phonemes and Aramaic characters, and after that, everything goes English again. Now I think that's 25 minutes, right? Because time ended in 1994. Oh, and hey, I'll give you 2-for-1 books because it's a fire sale and everything must go. It's an actual fire sale somewhere because there's a fire somewhere. Forest fires, so it's a fire sale, and you can take these books for free because they're complementary of my workplace's dumpster. But there's no garbage or anything on them. So Okay, thank you.
So I do have one quick question. Are we going to do questions now? Yes. Do we have questions for Jennifer? I certainly do. Kim.
Jennifer, why are so many of your books about surgery?
Well, are they really, are they of, in Surrey or of Surrey? You know, can anything good come from Nazareth, etc. Hi.
I have a question. Number one, thank you very much. What was your inspiration for your query series? I really like the style of it, and it sort of seemed like a computer talking back and forth, or talking to Siri or something. So, yeah. What was your inspiration of that?
I was in school and I was noticing, just generally, it seems often the question answered isn't the answer question, they don't match up. Yeah. And this is often something I've noticed at work too, is that people, it's like you're talking, everybody's talking tongues all the time. And it felt like that. And I was worried a great deal about, like, I'm still worried a great deal about I had this apocalyptic vision that all the books are going to go. And I'm pretty sure Marie Kondo is in on it. And I had this realization at work one day, and I realized that I'm like, why are all these people coming into the library with their boxes of books, and why are we getting rid of our own books? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Marie Kondo, because she's a deep agent. Because what do clouds do? They disappear, so all the books are going to go. And so I was thinking about negotiating all those paper questions.
Thank you.
I missed your setup, but I stumbled over the phrase granola avenues.
Oh yes.
For Vancouver. Surely we're cheap sushi avenues these days.
Cheap sushi and needles.
Vaguely psychotic avenues. I think your granola reference is 20, 30, or 40 years out of reference.
Well, this is the thing I was thinking, because I thought this. I had thought a great deal about oh, Vancouver is getting so bad. You know, people say this, and it's true, but it was always bad. And there's like a spell on us, and we don't know that. Because I was thinking a great deal about how things get bad, but they were all like this crunchy, nice Vancouver. I don't ever know that it existed. So, but I mean, people still do eat granola, or I guess granola is kind of outdated because it's kind of passe and it's got a lot of carbs. They still eat quinoa or something, or whatever the kids are eating.
Conjugate kale.
Kale.
Yeah.
Kale, exactly.
I don't like it, but
sure, it's got a lot of roughage, so that's probably good. But granola is not going to go because too many carbs. It's not going to. That is dated, though. I think granola is, what's that word? Like a Schenectady, where one thing stands for all the things. Is that the right word? So granola is, you know, the BC roll is what you said. What was the cuisine you said? Yeah, I think they all sort of stand for the things. They're all. That's what I meant by granola.
Can offer two things. I believe the California roll was invented here in Vancouver. And fascinatingly, that notorious corner of King George Boulevard and 108 now has a Choices Market half a block down the street.
Yeah, you know, they're not fooling anybody, because I think a lot about this, because I walked down there and I'm like, what is this place? Because when I was a little girl, we would be driving there and I'd be like, this is the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And it was like this old hotel with a pink castle facade, and I was a little girl and I'm embarrassed. I was embarrassed, but I like pink, and I was like, it's a castle. And of course, it's also, when I was a teenager, I found out that was where all the underage strippers were, and it was the Flamingo, and the pub was called the Bird, or the Dirty Bird, but they did away with it, and they did away with the Flamingo, and now there's condos, and they're still calling it the Flamingo and it's right next to the men's shelter, which is still open, so that's nice. So all the good things are happening in Surrey, and that's what I mean. Like, I think Surrey's the same. Like, people are, oh, Surrey. People tell me this all the time. They're like, Surrey's really pulled itself together. I'm like, has it though? And then also, one thing that was invented in Greater Vancouver is satanic panic, and this is something a lot of people don't know, because the satanic panic of the 80s all comes from Michelle Remembers, and Michelle Remembers is this book about this little girl having these nightmares about with her therapist, and because she was horribly abused as a child and with all these satanic ritual abuse, and the whole thing is made up, the whole thing isn't true, but this sort of ignited a whole countrywide panic where everyone's like, our children are getting, abused horribly, it's satanic rituals. And that comes from Vancouver Island. It was in Vancouver Island, and it was the Ross Bay Cemetery where these rituals were supposed to come. So that's also kind of weirdly a juxtaposition, because you think about Satan eating his quinoa or his granola. So I think there's just something in the soil that's really hypnotizing, but also like evil. Like hypnotizing the evil. That's what I kind of think. And I think that that's why you can't root out any problem, because it is the way it is. And it's in the soil somehow. It's like satanic panic everywhere. Speaking of satanic panic, this is one thing I should mention too, is that right before the pandemic, I was really excited because I found the best book in the dumpster, and it was called Satanic Ritual Abuse. And it was actually like a handbook for treatment from when people still believed in satanic ritual abuse. And I'm like, this is a keeper. And because I knew that the satanic panic would come back. So if anyone needs help, if they're being ritually abused, you have to come to me now, because try finding that book in a library in BC. You won't, but you'll find it at my house.
That was wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay, here's half of the book. This one's about Robert Johnson, speaking of the devil.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
And with garbage. That's gonna be bad moment.
Now, this is probably the moment to admit I live about 4 blocks away from that intersection in Wally.
Well, 15 minutes, so do I. And I returned there because I'm like, who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? So I returned there. Because 108 Avenue is my spiritual homeland, and it's a fascinating little place. In fact, there's a church that's just 4 blocks away, right around 108 Avenue, that was burned down recently. And it's very sad because it was Coptic Egyptian Coptics who had left Egypt because they were being persecuted, and now the church was burned down.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a bummer. But
It was a dramatic moment.
it was a dramatic time. There's many churches, and also a church that now have Buddhist temples, and many churches behind storefronts.
Yes.
Where who knows what kind of, it could be some ritual abuse going on. In which case,
I think we will be going back to your books and your poetry very soon.
well, and also my hand.
And I also have to admit, I'm currently writing a book on 1980s fantasy and just did an article on RPGs. So this is familiar territory. It's fun and crazy.